What's up there, guys? This is Rick. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching Fanfare for the Conscious, and in the video today I'm going to be talking about something that I like to call the Great Inversion. Let's dive in. Now, I must just preface this by saying that I'm not a Christian. I'm not a follower of any mainstream Western or Eastern religion. My personal understanding of spirituality comes from a combination of a few things. It is not only an understanding of some fundamental and hidden science that is available in the world today, but it is also just from a tiny little background of being brought up as a Christian when I was very young, and mainly the integration of certain esoteric texts, mainly things like Hermeticism and alchemy. So if you want to get a little bit more background about where I'm coming from with regards to this, please have a look into those subjects. However, the main reason I wanted to let you know this is because I'm going to be using some words today which are quite often associated with religion, and I want you to understand that I'm not necessarily using them in exactly the same context. So please don't click off the moment you hear me use the word spirit or soul or God, because I have ways of tying those into existing scientific concepts, and we'll discuss all of that in another video. But just wanted to preface this by saying that please don't balk too much at the words spirit and soul and God, because they have a real tangible meaning in my understanding of how the world works. So why have I called this the Great Inversion? This is a fairly complicated little diagram we've got going on here. But I've called it the Great Inversion because what's going on in the system of legalities and corporate and maritime law is effectively a mirror of natural law and a bastardization of natural law. They have taken something which is provably true via natural law, and they've tried to mirror it in order to create a synthetic version of the truth. And by doing that, they're separating us again from those fundamental truths and making us believe that it's only these corporate fictions and human definitions which are the necessary truth of the world. So before we go into what they've tried to mirror, let's have a look at what the original is. So what you have as a human being is there are three parts to the living human being, and the first one is fairly obvious that we're all very aware of. It is the material body, the flesh and blood vessel through which the mind operates. Think of yourself as some sort of robot or an android, and the bit of you that is actually controlling that is not necessarily inhabiting the body, but is transmitted to the body. Is the sense of who you really are does not actually exist within your body. It is an ethereal concept of mind. And that is what is communicated via the spirit into the material body. A lot of people will consider spirit and soul to be exactly the same thing, but spirit is something slightly different. It's like the telephone line that connects you to a PC on the other side of the world. The you embodied is like the disembodied mind. The spirit is like the Ethernet cables or the fiber optic cables that connect you then to the physical body, which would be the android or the robot in this case. Spirit and soul and mind all have what I believe to be fundamentally measurable scientific principles. So spirit is represented by the 0 point field, which is quantum background fluctuations in the fabric of space itself. In other forms of spirituality, this would be referred to as the Akashic records. The mind, also known as the soul, is the definitive part that makes you you. Even if your mind would be to be transplanted into another body, or it were to be disembodied entirely, it would still be recognizable as you. It is the fundamental preferences that you hold, the perspective and the recognition that you have of the world around you. That is what defines you as being who you are. It's not necessarily the body which you inhabit, but it is those beliefs and those methods of operating, so to speak. And now we understand what this sort of the truth, the sort of physical, ethereal domain is here. We can start to see how they've mirrored this across. So in place of the spirit, the bit that confirms the mind or the soul to control the body, is represented over here by the live birth record. Now this is the thing which attaches the material body, physical entity, to the intellectual concept of a name, a label. And this is the legally representative idea of who you are. It's basically a physical version of your soul, in a sense, but codified in human language and legalities and tied up in knots, basically. So we can start to see how this is an almost exact mirror. We've got the material body here, we've got the connecting entities here, and then we've got the actual mind soul over here, and then on the other side we've got the intellectualized idea of the name. So we can start to see how there is an inversion here. You can literally take this truth of how the universe really operates with your understanding of natural law and the innate intelligence of the universe, and you can flip that across. So that is quite obviously what they've done. They're trying to mirror God's creation in the domain of man. The universe's creation, source's creation, the innate intelligence of the universe. They're trying to mirror that and codify that in legal terms. So when you actually flip this over, you start to realize that what they're actually trying to do with this system is to claim and own and harvest your soul. And to say that again, what they are trying to do here is they're trying to claim, harvest and own your soul through the control of the law, of the legal name. Now, a lot of people talk about the occult references to a lot of these parasites, the elites, whatever you want to call them. I prefer parasites or vampires because I think that's a much more descriptive term. A lot of people say there's some occult elements to that, magic and ritual, and some people actually physically really believe that these people are actually trying to harvest our souls in a very real sense. However, when you understand exactly how the world works, you know that your mind, your soul, the essence of who you are, the energetic being that is you, is already by default a part of God, and it cannot be separated from him. So they can't actually steal your soul. They can't actually take that away because that is already in the domain of God and the universe and source. And as we discussed in the previous video, this omnipotence means he's all powerful and that can't be taken away from him. So what they've tried to do instead is they've tried to convince us that this doesn't exist. They've bastardized and manipulated religion and twisted it to the point that so many people are starting to reject it just based on all the lies and all the other awful things that are going on, when there is a fundamental truth there underneath all the lies and all the manipulations, which we do really need to be aware of. Because they can't actually steal your soul, they can't take it away from you, and they can't take it away from the God of the universe, what they're doing instead is they are creating a synthetic soul, an intellectualized and codified idea which is very similar to the idea of the soul, only instead of being this ethereal concept which is a combination of emotion and intellect, what we've got instead is intellect isolated on its own with all the emotion removed from it. It becomes a purely philosophical context, a purely philosophical idea without any emotional context to it. Now, this wasn't only just been done on one level, there's actually being done on multiple different levels, because not only does the live birth record connect to the HMRC in this country, you know, government birth certificate, for people who are actually religious and are involved in mainstream religious organisations like the Roman Catholic Church, the church themselves is also trading in these legitimised, codified soul analogues. And they're actually taking your birth certificate as your registration of birth with that given church, and they are using it as collateral in trade. So this isn't only happening once, the governments are doing it, but then the religious groups, which are supposed to be caretakers of your souls, are trading your souls with other religious entities via the Vatican. So this isn't just happening once, this is happening twice, and I want you to be really, really aware of how much of an affront this really is to your nature as a human being. They are trying to convince you that you don't have a soul, and instead are attaching your sense of worth to this legal name and using that as a surrogate soul, a synthetic soul, in order to harvest your productivity, your ideas and your creativity and your good nature. I hope you found this video interesting. Thank you very much for watching. If you are still here, it's very much appreciated. If you like my content and would like to see more just like this, please don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and don't forget the notification bell. Make sure you've got that set to all. YouTube is very, very keen to censor a lot of content like this, so really, really important that you do that. Please also don't forget to share this around with your friends. You will find a BitChute link to my BitChute version of this down in the comment section below. If you could use BitChute instead of YouTube, even better, absolutely wonderful. Anyway, just wanted to say take care of yourselves, guys, stay free, and I'll see you next time.